Hello, welcome to another episode of Bville Live. I'm Christina Neely, I'll be your host today. And today I'm going to teach you how to use up all those delicious leftovers that you have for Thanksgiving. It doesn't matter whether it's Thanksgiving or any time of year, you can make any combination of these creations and have a delicious luncheon for yourself or for your guests. So I have several people today for company, and all of them have requested different items to be put on their sandwiches. So I'm going to show you how to make some of these great paninis now, just from leftovers that you have. So first thing I'm going to start with this whole grain bread. I always like to make my paninis with a 12 whole grain bread. So I have my bread set out. I have just a little tiny chunk of brie left over that I had it from when I was serving hors d'oeuvres yesterday. So I'm going to use a little bit of that on the sandwiches. And the only reason I'm putting the cheese on, I don't usually put cheese on sandwiches, is just to keep it together in the panini machine. So I'm going to slice that into very, very thin slices, almost like butter. And I'm going to put that on the bread. And for this first one, I'm going to make sure that I put some pear in it. Even though we have a lot of meat and vegetables left over, I want to make sure, and that's about enough. I want to make sure that I get plenty of fruit and vegetables into my guest digestive system. Whether they like it or not, I'm going to make it healthy. So, and it's better for them and they'll feel better. So one of the reasons we get so sluggish is because we eat too much stuff that slows our digestion down. So I'm going to put that piece aside for the other sandwiches. I have a pear today. Now, I bought these pears. They were a little bit on the hard side, so they weren't quite good for eating, but they're perfect for cooking. So you can either make poached pears with it. Again, I start with just cutting my pear in half. I'm going to core out the center there, get rid of that. And I'm going to make some very thin slices to put on my sandwich. Now, in addition to the pear and brie, I have stuffing, I have greens, and I have cranberry sauce. So we're going to use a little bit of each, and these sandwiches are going to be divine. And the pear adds a little bit of sweetness, and the stuffing, of course, is savory, and the greens are going to be savory, and they have onions and just a tad of bacon in there. So that's going to add salt, so you won't need to add salt to the sandwiches. So I'm just going to cut around that core. And these are super easy to make. And instead of just, making a whole turkey sandwich or a turkey salad, this way you get plenty of fruit, fiber, and deliciousness into your sandwiches. And these are going to be simply divine. Pears are real high in fiber, so that's another fruit I like to use a lot of. Okay, so I put my brie down. So, a good pairing. You could also use apples for this, but I had the pear, and we're going to have apples for dessert at the table. So I'm going to put my pear slices, just arrange one layer of pear slices on the sandwich, and it's going to look like that when it's done. Okay. I'm going to put the rest of these pears in a bowl for my other sandwiches. They're already sliced and ready to go. I'll cover up that brie so it doesn't get buried. Alright, so next on top of that, I'm going to add some turkey. So I'm just going to slice my turkey into very thin slices. Turkey's not necessarily the star of this sandwich, it's more of a flavoring. If you treat your meat like a flavoring, it's a lot easier to go vegetarian, if you're going in that direction, and it's healthier for you, okay? So you can see I'm not putting a whole lot of meat on that sandwich. It's basically one slice cut into very, very thin strips. All right, the next thing I'm going to put on there are some greens. Remember, we made greens yesterday for Thanksgiving. If you weren't tuned into that video, you can look it up online. I have a video on how to make greens. If you don't have greens, you can add spinach to this or any kind of green vegetables that you have left over. So I'm going to take about 2 tablespoons of greens, Okay, I'm going to put those on the sandwich. And then next I'm going to put some stuffing on there. I have plenty of leftover stuffing. And this always comes in handy. And I'm going to show you how to make a pie out of that in a later video. It will be quite delicious. So I have about 2 tablespoons of stuffing on there. And this is going to be a monster of a sandwich. Okay, and then for the sweetness again, you have pear on one end. I'm going to put a little bit of cranberry on the other side. Okay, I'm going to put it towards the center because that's going to spread out and melt. And that is ready to go. All right, so I have my George Foreman lean mean grilling machine. And we used to use it for meat all the time, for grilled sandwiches, for grilled chicken and grilled beef and whatnot. But I use it more for panini press now than anything. So in order to reduce fat, one of the things that we do is, my daughter-in-law, future daughter-in-law told me about this, Tiffany, is we use parchment paper. If you use parchment paper, it keeps it clean. You don't have to put butter in it. It's a really great way to go. So I'm going to put the lid on my sandwich, okay, and then I'm going to lift the whole thing and put it onto the George Foreman grill. And don't worry if a little bit comes out, and just pick it up and shove it back into the sandwich. When you close the grill, everything will squish together, okay. And the way this works, and I'm going to press down a little bit just so it doesn't slide out, is the light will go off when it's done, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and make my other sandwiches. And usually by the time you finish making one sandwich, the next sandwich is ready. Okay. Now you can use any combination of fruits, vegetables. You can use apples, you could use pears, anything that you want to go on the sandwich. I just happen to have these in the house, so that's what I'm using. So again, your brie goes on your sandwich almost as if you're using butter. Okay, and if you run out and you have some Swiss or whatever kind of cheese you have, that's fine. Now that this has gotten softer, it's much easier to spread on the sandwich. And the only reason I'm using the cheese on here is because it's going to help adhere everything together. And also it's a really nice flavor with brie with fruit. Okay, so again, I have my brie spread on my 12 grain whole grain bread. I'm going to take my pear slices and arrange them very nicely onto the sandwich. And my guests are downstairs weightlifting right now. I just finished lifting myself. So they're going to come up and they're going to be hungry. So I'm doing these now so that they're ready to go when they come upstairs. Okay. Weightlifting is a great way to keep yourself in shape. So again, I arrange my pear slices very nicely. Next, I'm going to put on my stuffing. And it really doesn't matter the way that you put these on. Oh, I'm sorry, I was going to put my turkey on next. So, but I kind of go wet, dry, wet, dry, wet, dry. And that way, things will stick together. I mean, you don't want to put all your wet stuff on the outside. You want to put your wet stuff towards the center. Otherwise, you'll end up with soggy bread, and nobody likes soggy bread. So it's also a good way to use up any turkey that might be a little bit on the dry side. Like I'm cutting up a turkey leg, and this might have gotten a little bit overcooked. So it's a great way to use up that dry meat, or you know, if you just want white meat, that's fine too. But we're not putting a whole lot of meat in here, just really kind of scraps. I really get my meat to stretch anytime I make meat. I think it's better for you. Okay. So we arranged our meat on there like that. That's on top of the pear and brie. Next, we're going to add a little bit of stuffing, because turkey and stuffing go well together. You could even put, actually, I'm going to take that back and put the greens on. I'm not following my own advice, which is wet, dry, wet, dry. Okay, so I'm going to put some more greens on there. So that's going to be wet over top of the turkey because that's a little bit on the dry side. And this has some of those bacon bits in there, which is going to make it really nice too. So your guests will love this. Now I'm going to add my stuffing, which is going to be your dry, and then we'll add the cranberry on top because that's nice to have it next to the brie. And you don't need a whole lot. You're only putting about a tablespoon of each ingredient on here. You know, you have to be able to hold on to it. You don't want it squishing out all over the place. Like I said, it's more for flavoring in the palate. So when they bite into it, they kind of get a rush of all these different flavors. So that'll be our next sandwich that's ready to go. Put that on a smaller plate. And we'll do our third sandwich. Okay. So again, I'm going to take my brie, my last chunk of brie, put it over here, and put it on like butter. I mean, you could use butter, but you know, there's enough fat in the cheese. And I don't put anything on the outside at all. And if you feel it doesn't have enough, you could also add a slice of Swiss cheese to it, whatever you have laying around. So I'm going to put those pear slices down next. Just like that. This one's going to have a little bit extra pear, which is fine. And I've used up all of our pear. So again, it's going to look like that. I'm going to put my turkey, take another slice of turkey, and you can see I'm just using like a small piece of turkey. And I'm slicing it into very, very small pieces. Okay, so I'm going to stop that a second because my light went out on my grill. So I want to check this panini and see how it turned out. And that is done. So I have my extra plate on standby. And actually you can just lift this right out and slide it onto the plate. Okay. And put your next one right on. And I'll just press that down. And that'll be ready to go. Let me show you what the inside of this looks like. Oh, absolute heaven. So you have your melted brie, your pear slices, your turkey, your greens, your cranberry sauce, all in one. And that's going to look lovely on the table. Okay, so let's finish up this one. And it doesn't matter how you put it on. Just kind of spread it around. Put my greens on. I'll probably give this last one to my son because it's going to have the most ingredients on it. I normally wouldn't put stuffing on the sandwich, but he requested it. And you know, when we were making the stuffing, which you can check my video on how to make the stuffing, it was a good amount of fruits and it was a good amount of vegetables in there. You can see the carrots and the other ingredients, so it's really not that bad. But it's almost like having another piece of bread in there, so it's almost like a club sandwich. But Thanksgiving's once a year, so I'm going to spoil them on Thanksgiving. And then last we put our cranberry sauce on. Now you can also do this in a bowl if you are going more keto and you want to just put it in a, if you want to put it in a bowl, you can do a grain bowl with it, okay? So you're just going to put that lid on the topping, okay? And when the next one is done, we'll pop it out, and I'll show you what it looks like when we get it to the table.